www.thegreatwhitebrotherhood.org.
Update to space/time. To understand space/time, it is necessary to understand what space is, and how time seems to exist, which, if correctly explained and understood, will lead us to an understanding of space/time. Now, the first thing we need to understand is that space is an illusion. There is only here, an infinitesimal spot of consciousness, in which everything is contained. This spot of consciousness is so small, that it can be called a singularity. Imagine all of reality, from the tiniest atom, to the complete galaxy, as this one singularity. But, as we have mentioned before, this singularity exists for all people, individually. It has been called a prime radiant. So, there is one spot, one atom, a reality for each and every person. We will just consider those people incarnate, and say that there are approximately 7 billion points of reality, one for each person incarnate. Also, we have stated that this singularity has the ability to create, or not, all that is observed, by any one person. We have mentioned how, if someone travels, the space in front of that person is created, whilst the space behind the person disappears. If this is true, and it is, it indicates that there is a controlling force, creating and destroying, that which is observed, billions of times a second. This force is the individual's personal consciousness, operating in harmony with the directors of life, to keep life in balance, and to conserve energy. So, what is happening, is that, in this one singularity, vast vistas of life appear and disappear, billions of times a second, under the control of a person's consciousness, and in conjunction with some directors of life. This is not easy to understand, and, to be honest, would not help to push creative life forward. So, we have the bizarre situation, in which space is actually a singularity, one for each of the 7 billion people alive, and each singularity appearing and disappearing, billions of times a second, as life is created and destroyed. So, we cannot really say that space exists at all. All that we have, is a minuscule dot, a sort of image, in which a person attempts to create some sense, and, as soon as it is created, it is destroyed, and replaced by a similar, but slightly different image. And this is so, for everyone alive, each person observing different images. And this almost nonsensical mass of disparate images, we call space. Thus, at the best, all that we can say about space is, that for every person alive, there are a series of still frames, each one slightly different from the previous, but, in all honesty, can we call a series of still frames of images, repeat differently 7 billion times, space? Now, space is an illusion, as we said, and should be viewed as such. It is an illusion, so well created, that it seems obvious to anyone who looks around them, that space is true. It is only when we consider it from a more scientific point of view, if we can use the word scientific, when describing esoteric matters, that we can see it for what it is, an illusion. Now, if space does not really exist, can time exist? We have already mentioned, that space/time was actually introduced, in an attempt to give fight/flight, some sense. We refer you to our talk, about that subject. But, a moment's thought, would indicate that if space does not exist, time can hardly exist, as for time to exist, we need space for it to move into. Otherwise, we would just have a singularity, standing in the spot, while a clock was ticking away. So, each frame of space is connected to the previous, and to the next, which, eventually, stretches out into a long sequence, and gives us, not only time, but space/time, as each frame of space is connected sequentially to the one preceding it, and the one following it. This has been likened to a strip of film, as recorded in the sorts of cameras that use analog film. But, once again, it is part of the illusion. Time only exists, because we accept that each frame of film follows inevitably in a sequence. We remind you, that this happens 7 billion times, once for each of the 7 billion people incarnate at the moment. We will ignore the fact that each frame of time/space is of a unique vibration, because, a, we have discussed that elsewhere, and, b, we do not wish to add to the complexity of the subject. Therefore, we have explained, once again, that space/time is a sequence of still frames of images, moving in a series, one after another, and that event is repeated 7 billion times, approximately, once for each person incarnate. We will stop here, because we do not wish to introduce concepts of space/time that we have not yet discussed, although, we will say, that what we have stated above, although true, is not the end of the story at all, and that there are a number of levels of space/time that we will discuss, when the time is ripe.
Thank you for watching this video lesson. Please visit www.thegreatwhitebrotherhood.org for more lessons and free downloadable books.